Okay, so I'll go ahead and read it, and we'll go from there. So the landscape from Avenue 8. This is October 2022. It's their monthly email. Last year's anomaly is not today's economy. Putting 2022 into historical context. In March of 1962, Wilt Chamberlain set an unbroken NBA record of 100 points in a single game. For the remainder of the season, he averaged only 37 points. Today, rather than fixating on the 83% or 63% decline, we remember that night in March as an extraordinary exception, not the rule. Yet in today's housing market, most headlines focus on 2022's performance relative to what was once one of the most anomalous years in recent memory, rather than historical averages. The 2010s began with a post-recession recovery that fueled transaction volume from a low of 4.2 million resale transactions per year to a 5.6 million in 2020. Months later, the effects of work-from-home provisions and record low interest rates buoyed the market to north of 6 million transactions in 2021. While 2022 is undoubtedly a slower year for the market, there's no question that 2021 was an aberration. Industry analyst Mike Delpreet articulates how last year is not a good benchmark, and in fact, when compared to the average of the past 10 years, today's market is only 0.9% below average. Wow. And interest rates? The average 30-year mortgage rate in 2005 was 5.87% and 6.41% in 2006, in the years leading up to the Great Recession. These levels are similar to rates today, even after several rounds of aggressive rate increases by the Federal Reserve. Still, existing home sales reached a record in 2005 with over 7 million transactions. All this to say, while it is true that the market is going through an adjustment period from last year's frenzy, headlines using 2021 as a reference point are often exaggerated. Buyers, sellers, and agents can all benefit from using a longer-term historical lens and being reminded that 2022 has been anything but mediocre in comparison to most years in recent history. So unpack that a little.
Well, usually I feel our newsletter, our Avenue 8 letter, is just a straight shooter. This one's tweaking a little on the side of trying to market, I must say.
Okay, all right.
Just a little. The interesting thing about so many real estate articles is that, and just stats in general, you can lean stat, you can make stats look one way or the other. They're absolutely correct in what they've stated. Yep. Interest rates are not ridiculous. Yep. Volume of sales are not unheard of and not an astronomical thing, although they are down from 2021 as they stated. Mm-hmm. Those two things are accurate. What is not factored in, and this is where the combination of three things is what makes it a different market, a more difficult market, is the price points. So the price points are substantially higher. Yeah. Now the interest rates have more of an impact on those price points. It's probably the most relative comparison between the two.
Well, it's interesting too. The other factor here might be, how much were people getting paid in those days? I don't know.
Wages have increased, right? So what we were hearing a lot of back in 05, 06 was just a continual cost affordability rate, that a ratio of how many average people can afford to buy. That number dipped well below 20% back then. I think we're probably, and I'd be interested, maybe at our next live stream, we can have that data. My guess is that those numbers are similar. But things are different. We have more stability in the mortgage environment. Right. But yeah, article is true. I don't question that. But the prices are what make those components seem more daunting and harder to absorb.
Yeah, good observation. A little off topic, but they used Wilt Chamberlain, and I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a documentary. I think it was HBO on Jeremy Lin and Linsanity,
It didn't.
Yeah, it's really good because it really talks about Asians and how they gained a new sense of identity through his efforts there. And the only thing, like, we don't hear about Jeremy Lin now, right? But the one thing is that game that he played against the Lakers where he scored 38 points against Kobe. And Kobe pretended like he didn't even know who Jeremy Lin was at the beginning of the game. But people remember that one thing. So, yeah, I thought that was funny. Okay, so the rest of this, let me just go ahead and read on. It says, on the horizon, an emerging wave of creative financing. I thought this was timely for us as well.
Very timely,
right? Yeah. Sellers are finding ways to unstick the market, and that's what we're trying to do. As the average monthly mortgage has increased significantly from earlier this year, when interest rates were at a 5,000-year low, and prices continue to rise, a growing number of homeowners looking to sell have begun to identify new ways to attract buyers and generate residual cash flow at the same time, seller financing. Rather than discounting the sale price, some sellers have been offering potential buyers lower cost financing than they would otherwise receive from lenders. These financing solutions often bypass the need to go through a bank for the buyer and can generate an attractive ROI. As an example here, 3.5%. On the bridged capital for the seller, typically they have a 5 to 10 year maturity period with a balloon payment at the end, so that the buyer can refinance with the bank if they believe that rates will modulate downward. In many cases, these structures are a win-win for both parties. As these creative seller financing solutions become more popular, have you recently encountered unique examples in your own market? We want to know. Send a note to hello@avenue8.com. So, yeah. We just got a phone call about this.
We did. And seller financing, we were all over the place on that call. And God, what a dynamic person that guy is that we were speaking with. So aggressive out there, trying everything he can possibly do to institute all these options. And, clearly some of the methods he was discussing were just too aggressive for my personal nature. Right. But other things make sense. Yes, it could be a win-win. The repeated theme that he kept putting out there that we discussed was that in the end, if a seller isn't getting their price, maybe they can get their price through seller financing. It delays their payment. It delays them getting the lump sum that they're seeking. And simply put, that works for some people and it doesn't for others. Yeah. So to get your price today, you'll make some interest along the way. You're being rewarded for waiting. You're making interest and principal payments throughout. So you're receiving that, and then you get the lump sum at the end on a refinance. It's a little scary, I would imagine, for most sellers to act like a bank. The biggest question is going to be, well, what security do I have? The most fundamental question, and that fundamental question is, the fundamental answer to that question is that you have a lien, a deed filed against the property, recorded with the county recorder. So if they ever went to try to sell that property, you're in the first position, and they can't sell it without paying you. It would be that clear. Their foreclosure proceedings, if they stop paying, those are built into the process as well. So if it's something you're comfortable with, definitely let's have a conversation. We're developing our resources. We've done it before. It's been many years for me. But let's have a talk. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation about it to see if it's something you'd consider and if you're comfortable with it.
Okay, and then as we read on, just some talking points. 56%. This is proportion of a 109-person expert panel expecting a buyer's market by the end of 2023. Source Inman. 1.4% plus minimum forecast for year-on-year home value growth in 2023 by experts. Oof. And that is sourced from Zillow, NAR, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac.
Wow.
pretty well sourced. And then 20, that's number of months of positive growth in rent nationally before a 0.1% decrease in August 2022. And the other number here is 7,045. Typical monthly mortgage payment in August for a home in San Jose, the highest in the nation. And then it moves on to the keys. The volume of home sales in the higher priced and luxury segments remains largely unaffected. And it shows here change in national home sales year on year, percentage August 2021 to August 2022 by price segment. Well, have to decipher that later. Takeaway is August is historically a slower month for home sales, which was exacerbated this year by high inflation and historically low inventory. However, sales decreased the most in the lower price segments. Sales for homes priced above $500K decreased only slightly year on year. Welcoming news for sellers in expensive coastal markets. Okay. And then finally here, fewer homes are selling over asking price, both nationally and in LA and San Francisco. And the takeaway here is the proportion of homes selling for above asking has decreased in the summer after peaking in April. While about half of the homes in Los Angeles and San Francisco are still selling above asking, it has become more imperative for agents to set realistic expectations for sellers and provide appropriate guidance in determining the asking price. Yep, we've said that a couple times. Yep.
Yeah, I will say this too. They talk about the year over year pricing. I've been noticing that too. Again, how you deliver the data and the stats is relevant there. Because when you go to meet with a lot of sellers, they don't care about what's sold in October of 2021.
Right.
What's top of mind for them is what's sold in June 2022. So yes, the numbers went up and they did get higher, and they've come down from the peak probably in the range of June. So there has been a pullback in pricing, but when there's a year over year comparison, there has not been. So, it's always it's hard to base choices on a very small amount of data, but that's probably our biggest battle as agents. It's getting people to understand it's not June.
Well, you're making me think. Again, you see some weaknesses somewhat in this content, and now I'm just thinking about it. What was our first story? Not comparing things to 2021.
Right.
They are comparing things to 2021.
To 2021. Sure.
Come on, guys.
and yeah, in that case, they're talking about it's not a negative, and now they're saying they're using it as a positive. Again, using stats in a way that I get it. So I want to point that out because
good point.
We'll continue to see that year over year comparison.
Yeah,
it's gonna look, it'll look tough if it's June to June when that time arises.